Hi guys, welcome to Unit 5, Lesson 8, Slope-Intercept form. Alright, so we've already talked about this a little bit, okay, but this time the big thing is that they're going to be giving us equations that are not in slope-intercept form, and we need to change them or simplify them into slope-intercept form, okay? So as a reminder, slope-intercept form is the equation of a line written as y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept, okay? So this is the format that we're looking for, all right? So the best thing to do to learn this is to get to it through practice, all right? So let's do some examples. With this first one, this is number 1 from your practice. It says transform the linear equation negative 2y equals 14 minus 6x to slope-intercept form. Well, first off, slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. So with this, what I notice, let's see, I'll write it down here, negative 2y. So the y is already on the left. That's a good sign. And then we've got 14 minus 6x. Okay? So in order to get y by itself, that's my first goal, is because then at least I'm one step closer to being in this format. To do that, right now I am multiplying by negative 2. So to get rid of it, I need to divide both sides by negative 2. Now this is kind of something that we've never done before, all right? So I know that might look a little funky, but let's focus on this. We recognize this, right? Whenever you multiply and divide by the same number, they cancel each other out. So we're left with y on the left. Now, in order for this to work, we have to divide everything over here by negative 2. So each term is going to be divided by negative 2. Another way we can look at it as 14 divided by negative 2 minus 6x divided by negative 2. Okay? So, with that, woohoo, y is by itself. Now let's see, 14 divided by negative 2 is negative 7, right? A positive divided by a negative is a negative, and then 14 divided by 2 is 7, so negative 7. Now over here, really I have like a negative and a negative, so those are gonna be a positive, okay? And then 6 divided by 2 is 3, so we're left with positive 3x. Now we're getting close, okay? We got rid of the scary division, okay? But now we're still not in this format. But when adding, like, when you're adding terms together, the order doesn't matter, right? 2 plus 3 is the same thing as 3 plus 2. Well, that's true with this also. Here's my addition. So I can take this whole term and this whole term, and I can flip them to say, now I have 3x plus negative 7, okay? Well, when you have a positive or like an addition symbol right next to a negative symbol, that means to subtract. So in this case, we would have 3x minus 7. And now, look at that. We match this format of y equals mx plus b. Okay? So in this case, b is the y-intercept, right? So like we would cross the y-intercept on our graph at negative 7. All right? That's what that's telling us. So it's okay that it's a negative. On this next one, this is number 4 from your practice. I chose it mostly because of those fractions, okay? So it says, what is the slope and y-intercept of the equation 9 plus 27 over 2 times x equals negative 3 halves y? Write the y-intercept as an ordered pair. So our final goal is to have, and I'll write it over here and hopefully that gives me enough space, is to have our slope and y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept, it said to write it as an ordered pair, and if it's the y-intercept, that's where it's crossing the y axis, right? Which means that the x value in that ordered pair is going to be a 0, all right? so I can kind of set myself up for success to make sure I have everything that I need. With that though, the first thing I notice is that like when we consider slope-intercept form, right, y equals mx plus b, well the y needs to be on the left. So right now I have the x on the left and the y on the right. Well, I can flip that whole thing. I can say -3/2 times y is equal to 9 plus 27/2 times x. Okay? So now at least the variables are on the right side of the equation. Okay? Now, in order to get y by itself, or actually the next thing I could do even is I could rewrite the whole thing, but then flip these. Remember on the last one how we flipped them? So 27/2x plus positive 9. At least now we're a little bit closer to this format, but now really I need to get rid of this -3/2. Well, remember when we are multiplying by a fraction, to cancel it out, I can multiply by the reciprocal, right? Which is kind of like a shortcut of doing same change flip when you divide by a fraction. So in this case, I'm going to multiply both sides by -2/3, but that also means I have to do the same thing over here, -2/3, okay? By doing that, one, I have a negative times a negative, so that's a positive, that's a good thing. Ooh, and this side, it looks like I'm subtracting. I need to put that multiplication symbol in there for that. And then also, I have the same thing in my numerator and my denominator, so they cancel each other out, giving me y on the right-hand side. No, I'm sorry, on the left-hand side. Next, I need to multiply everything inside the parentheses by this -2/3. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to write everything out just so we can see it really clearly. I'm going to write it like that. And I'm going to put the 9/1. That way it's in fraction form and I can make sure that I'm multiplying everything correctly. Okay? So with that, there's a few things that I want us to notice, and hopefully you're at the point in your understanding of fractions where you could do this too. Now, one option is we multiply straight across and then reduce. But one thing I notice is that, look, I have a 2 in my numerator and a 2 in my denominator. So those can cancel out, right? Because 2 divided by 2 is 1. The next thing I notice is that I have a 3 in my denominator. Well, 3 divided by 3 is 1. I could put little 1s here for those too. 27 divided by 3 is 9. So now I have this -1/1 times 9/1. Well, that's just -9/1, or just -9 times x. Okay, and then I have a negative times a positive, so I know I'm going to have a negative here. And then same thing here. Look, I can do 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Well, that simplifies my life a little bit, because now I have 2 times 3, which is 6, over 1 times 1, and 6/1 just reduces to 6. Look at that. Look how much nicer that looks compared to all those fractions and stuff. So this is our equation, and this is what I'm going to be basing these answers off of. If we look at y-intercept form, remember m stands for your slope. That was one of the things that we're looking for. And the y-intercept is b. So our slope is -9, and our y-intercept is -6. So the ordered pair would be 0, -6. So it's a pretty big concept, pretty big jump from other things that we've been doing, but hopefully this helps. If you need to re-watch it, by all means, go for it. The other option, like if this didn't make sense, like this reducing before we multiplied step, if that doesn't make sense, you still could have multiplied straight across, even here. You could have multiplied straight across, and then reduced it, okay? Like this would have been 2 times 9 is 18, 3 times 1 is 3, 18 divided by 3, or really a negative, would be -6 still, okay? So either way, you still could have gotten there. With number 3, this is also number 3 from your quick check, so make sure you pay attention. It says graph the equation 9 minus x equals 3/2 y using slope-intercept form. So once again, we want slope-intercept form. The first thing I notice is that my variables again are on opposite sides of the equal sign than where I want them. So I'm just going to flip the whole thing to start out by getting them on the right side. So we can say 3/2 y equals 9 minus x. Okay? So with that, we can flip these again, just like we did in the last couple of problems. So we still have 3/2 times y equals, and then we could say -x plus 9. I just flipped those around. Next, I want y by itself. And so I'm going to multiply by positive 2 over 3 this time. And I have to do the same thing to this whole side. Okay? Oops, this should be, sorry, 2 over 3. Okay? Over here, these are going to cancel, right? Because we've got a 2 in the numerator, 2 in the denominator, 3 in the denominator, 3 in the numerator, giving us 1y, right? Or this would have been 6 over 6, which reduces to 1. Now with this, let's see, I'm going to apply or distribute the 2/3 into everything inside the parentheses. So that means I have 2/3 times -x plus 2/3 times 9. Okay? Well, a positive 2/3 and then -x, really, it's kind of like there's a 1 right here, right? Well, anything times 1 is itself. Of course, this is a negative, though. So -1 times 2/3 is going to be -2/3 x. And then over here, I can write the 9 as a 9 over 1. And then that helps me to see that, oh, let's see, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So then I'm left with 2 times 3, which is 6. And then over 1, so that just reduces to 6, so plus 6. Now I'm in slope-intercept form, and I can go ahead and graph. Hopefully I left myself enough room. Okay, so let's see here. My y-intercept is 6. That's where I need to start out, okay? Now, I didn't give myself a ton of room for a big graph, so I'll double up on these tick marks on my lines. Okay. And you could do the same on your paper, okay, because when you go to do your quick check, you are going to be, you're going to have to choose the correct graph. Now, when you have it in slope-intercept form, first, and the easiest thing to do, go ahead and plot this point. This is positive 6, so that tells me that's where I'm crossing the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my first point. Now, using my slope, okay, so I have a -2 over 3. Remember, slope is like rise over run. So in this case, since it's a negative, I know my line is going to look like it's going down. Okay, so negative, I could say that I'm rising -2, or from this point I would go down 2, but then I'm going to run 3. Then go down 2 and run 3, and so on. And you could keep doing that. Okay? And then you connect the dots. And so that's the line plotted from this equation. Okay? I hope this helps. I know it's a big jump from what we've been doing, So if you need extra support, of course, let me know. All right? Have an awesome day.